So today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this off-shoulder blouse with fringes. So this is what you like to learn, then ensure to watch this video to the end. This is Joydala Fashion Guide. So we'll start with the pattern drafting. I'm going to be using this brown paper to draft the pattern. The off-shoulder is 4 inches off, so I'll place my tape at the 4 inches mark, and then I'm going to be taking all my vertical measurements from the shoulder to the bust point, shoulder to under bust, and then shoulder to waist, then the low waist, and then the length of the blouse. So I'll just repeat same for the other side so that I can have a straight line. I'll mark shoulder to the bust line, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to the main waist, shoulder to the low waist, and then we have the length of the blouse. So my length is 24 inches. So once I'm done with that, I'm going to use a long ruler to connect the points together. The pencil is faint, don't worry, I'm going to be using a marker to highlight it again. So I'm just marking all the lines. So I'll be using the marker now to draw out the lines again so that it can be visible. So let's label what we have. This is the bust line. This is the under bust. This is the waist line. This is the low waist. And then this is the full length of the blouse. So we're going to be marking the neckline. So to mark the neckline, I'm going to measure the across chest. We'll measure across chest. We divide it by 2, and then we subtract 2 from it. So once I do that, I'm going to have 5.5, and then I'll add 5 inches for seam, so I'll have 6 inches. So I'm marking 6 inches as my neck width. Then I'm going to take the armhole depth. Remember, we have 4 inches off, and my armhole depth is 8 inches. So I'll just go ahead and mark it on the other side so that I can have a straight line. So this is now the chest line. So from here now, this is now the chest line. So we're going to be using this to determine our armhole curve. So to do that, I'm going to impute quarter of the bust circumference. Quarter of the bust circumference. I'll mark it on the chest line. And then I'm going to connect it to the neckline with the French curve. You will not use the very curvy part because the off-shoulder armhole is not as deep as the regular armhole. So use a part that is not too deep. So the next thing now is to mark half of the bust span measurement. Half of the bust span measurement. We'll mark it on the bust line, the waist, on the bust waistline. We're going to mark it across. We extend it all the way down and also to the neckline. After that, I'm going to use my long ruler to connect all the points together. So once we are done with that, the next thing now is to highlight with my marker. After that, we are going to be taking the dart. I'm going to be marking the dart, the underbust on the waist. I'm going to be taking 1 inch on both sides. So the underbust, I'll mark 1 inch, and then on the waistline I also mark 1 inch on both sides. So this depends on the size of your bust. So after that, I'm going to connect it with a ruler. I'm working with a bust of 40. My bust is 40, so that is why I'm using this measurement. So it depends on your own measurement. So from the waistline, we'll go down by 6 inches. So I'll just connect that like a triangle to the down part of the full length, the down part of the length of the blouse, like a V. And then on the bust line, I'll come down by ½ inch so that we can draw the curve. We can connect the bust line to the under bust, and then we don't need friction there. So after coming down by ½ inch, I'll use my French curve to connect it to the under bust. So this part, we are going to be cutting it out. So the next thing is to take the upper bust tightening, which is on the neckline, and just take 1 inch on both sides as well. I'll mark 1 inch, and then we're going to be connecting it towards the bust line, but it's going to stop ½ inch above the bust line. So use the ruler to connect that. So we are going to be cutting out this part, and then we are going to be replacing it on the armhole. We have 2 inches, so I'm going to be adding 2 inches to the armhole, and then the chest line will extend it out also by 2 inches, and then we connect that with our French curve. So this is now the new armhole. We'll no longer be using the old one. This part, we are going to be cutting it out. So I'm just going to use the marker now to highlight it again so that the lines can be more visible. If you are new to this channel, you are welcome. Please endeavor to subscribe and then leave comments below in the comment section. So let me know what you think about my videos, and please like my videos, share my videos. This is Joydala Fashion Guide. So I'm just connecting all the points again with the marker so that it can be visible. So this part, we are going to be cutting it out. So the next thing now is to impute our horizontal measurement. So on the bust line, we put 1/4 of the bust measurement, and then we add seam allowance. It's always good to have more seam allowance. You can always trim it off later. So we connect the chest line to the bust line, and then on the underbust, we'll also mark 1/4 of the underbust measurement, underbust circumference, 1/4 of it. We'll replace the 2 inches dart intake, and then we'll add seam allowance. Then we add seam allowance. So on the waistline, I'm going to impute 1/4 of the waist circumference. Then I'll replace the dart, the 2 inches dart intake, and then I'll add seam allowance. So I'll just extend that to the low waist. But for the hem of the blouse, I'm going to be imputing my hip measurement. I'll be imputing my hip measurement. And then we're going to be having a back waistline, so it's not going to start like a V. I'll go in by 1 inch first before taking the curve. So on that low waist line now, I'm now going to impute the hip measurement, because the blouse is going to rest on the hip, so we want it to relax way. So we'll mark the hip measurement, then add the dart again, and then now add seam allowance. So this is now the new side that I'm now going to be marking. So I'll just adjust that now with the ruler. And remember, it's better to have more than to have less. We can always trim off the excess later. So the next thing is to cut it out. So when you are cutting it out, remember to add seam allowance to the down part, to the side, and then to the armhole. And then don't forget to label your patterns. This is the front pattern, and then this front pattern will be cut on fold. So here, that is the center front, and then we have the side. The side will be 2 pieces. The center front will be 1 piece. So this is the front pattern. We are going to also do the neckline. So for the back pattern, I'm going to be using this brown paper for the back pattern. Always label your pattern. So we're about to draft the back. Remember, we are doing 4 inches off. So first of all, I'm marking the zipper line. I'm marking 1 inch zip allowance. So you can use whatever zip allowance that you want. After that, I'll place my tape on the 4 inches off, and then take the length of the blouse. Of course, it will be the same length as the front pattern. So this is me now just rolling the zipper line. So this is the zip allowance. So we can now go ahead now and mark the neckline. Remember, 4 inches off. We'll now begin to impute the vertical measurement. The shoulder to the bust line, shoulder to waist line, and then the lower waist, and then the length of the blouse. For the back pattern, we do not have on the bust. So I'll just repeat same again for the other side of the paper, so that we can have a straight line. So shoulder to the bust line, shoulder to the waistline, shoulder to the low waist, and then we have the length of the blouse. So the next thing now is to connect the points together using the long ruler. So I'm also going to use the marker to rule out the lines again. Sorry, I'm running out of marker. They are no longer showing very well. Please bear with me. So next is to label our pattern. We have the shoulder, the bust line, the waistline, the low waist, and then the full length of the blouse. Next is the neckline. We are going to be using the same neck width as the front pattern. We'll be using the same neck width as the front pattern, which is 6 inches. Remember, 5.5 plus half, that is 6 inches. So I'll place my tape and then mark it, and then mark the armhole depth. Remember, 4 inches off, and then we mark 8 inches. So alternatively, if you want to determine the neckline of your off shoulder, you can use your bust span measurement plus 1 inch. So this is now the chest line. This is the chest line. So the next line is to mark the armhole curve. So I'm going to be using the French curve to connect that. So before we do that, on the chest line, we're going to take quarter of the bust measurement, and then we connect that to the neckline using the French curve. We connect that to the neckline. And then the next thing is to now mark the bust span measurement. We will do that after the zipper allowance. The zipper allowance is not included in it. So I'm marking half of the bust span measurement. So I'm going to be taking ½ inch on both sides of the waistline. We'll mark ½ inch on both sides. So this is the hem of the blouse. We'll mark our 4 inches as well, and then we connect it like a triangle. The 4 inches is half of my bust span measurement, and then we connect it like a triangle to the waistline, and then from the waist we connect it upwards to the bust line. We're going to stop 1 inch above the bust line. So we'll stop 1 inch above the bust line, and then we also connect it like a triangle from that chest line towards the waistline. That is from the 1 inch above the bust line measure point. We'll connect it to the waistline, so it will be like a triangle. So you have like a triangle up and down, and then from that point above the bust line, we just connect it in a slanted position, in a slanted line to the neckline. So the next is to determine the neck depth of the back. So you determine the neck depth. Remember, it's 4 inches off. So my neckline is stopping 1 inch before the chest line. So you just use a French curve to mark that out. So I'm just using the marker now to highlight all the lines again so that they can be visible. So this part, we are going to be cutting it out. We are going to be cutting this part out. So the next thing is to impute the horizontal measurement. So mark quarter of the bust circumference on the bust line, and then we add seam allowance. Then you connect it to the chest line, and then we just connect to the chest line, and then we go to the waistline. We measure quarter of the waist circumference. We have a 1 inch dart intake. We'll replace that, and then we're going to be adding seam allowance. To be on a safe side, you can use 3 inches seam allowance, and then we connect that to the low waist. So from that low waist, you are going to be using the French curve to just connect the back shape. I want the shape to be on the back pattern as well. And don't forget, on this low waist, we are imputing the hip measurement. We are imputing the hip measurement. So I'm just highlighting with the marker again so that we can see the lines. And then we are going to be cutting it out. So we just cut it out. Remember to also add seam allowance. Cut round it, cut the neckline, the armhole, add seam allowance, and then we cut through the dart to the neckline. So this is the back pattern. When you are through, you label it. So this is the center back. It's going to have to be 2 pieces, Then this is the side back. We are going to have two pieces as well. So this is the back pattern, and then this is the front pattern. So we are through with drafting the pattern. The next thing is to cut them on the fabric, the main fabric, and then the lining. So next thing is to cut out the sleeve. For the sleeve, I'll just fold my paper, then take the height of the sleeve. It's going to be 2 inches. But when you are cutting on the main fabric, you're going to be adding seam allowance. So you're going to be cutting 2 inches. Instead, you'll be cutting 3 inches in height. So I'm just trying to cut out the paper that I need. So once you have done that, remember we are doing 4 inches off. 4 inches off. So we'll go ahead and mark 4 inches. We are going to add seam allowance to that later. And then to be able to get the curve, you can pick the pattern. You can pick the front pattern and then just place the armhole curve on the sleeve pattern like this, and then just trace it out. So once you've done that, you go ahead and add 1/2 inch seam allowance to that. So this is where we are going to be cutting. This is the initial measurement and then the seam allowance. So the next thing now is to cut it out. So after which we use this now to cut on the fabric. So this is going to be 2 pieces. So we'll now use it to cut on our main fabric and also on the lining. So that is all. So this is the fringe that we are going to be using. It is 1/2 inch in yards. It's 18 inches long. So I'm going to be cutting it into 2. So I'll use 9 inches for each sleeve. We're going to be attaching it to the sleeve. So this is the front pattern. We're going to be sewing. So attach the sides to the front, to the center front, and also the lining. So this is the back pattern. So on the pattern paper, I forgot to draw out the neckline. We are going to be having a sweetheart neckline for the front pattern. Sweetheart neckline. So just use the scissors to cut it out. So remember, when you are cutting your pattern on fabric, you're going to add seam allowance around it. As you can see, we have seam allowance around it. So go ahead and sew, join all the parts together, the main fabric and then the lining. So you open up the front pattern like this, then you attach the side to the left and then to the right. So we're going to repeat same for the lining. And then the back pattern will take one part of the center, one part of the side, and then we join it together. We'll do same for the lining. So this is what we have after joining the side and the center. So this is the back pattern. So the next now is to sew the neckline. We are going to be using the lining to turn the main fabric on the neckline. So just place it on it and then sew with 1/2 inch seam allowance, after which we will notch it. Then we are also going to sew the zipper line as well. So we'll repeat same for the other part of the back pattern. So this is the front pattern. We've already joined the sides to the center. And then on the neckline of that sweetheart on the main fabric, iron interfacing on it. So the next thing now, we're going to be using the lining to turn the neckline. We have also sewed the lining, so just complete the interfacing, let it cover the neckline. Let it cover the neckline. Then we're going to sew with 1/2 inch seam allowance, after which we will notch the curve area. Then we join it at the side as well. So this is it. We have already joined the neckline, so it's now remaining the armhole. So before we close the armhole, we are going to attach the sleeve. So you can see the neckline, I notch it so that it can relax well, after which I ironed it. So repeat same for the other side. So I'm going to be attaching the back pattern together. I'm going to use a temporary stitch to sew the zipper line. So this is the front pattern. We've already torn it with the lining. For the neckline, after sewing, I notch the curved part so that it can relax. Like this. And then I also understitch. on the back pattern as well. So for the front pattern, we don't really iron so much, except you have a breast hem. Then if you like, you can place a breast cup or a pad. You can pad the bust line. Excuse me. So this is the sleeve. I cut it out of the base fabric and the lining. So to sew the sleeve, we are going to attach the fringe in between. So you just take the fringe, fold it into 2, and then you cut it, because we are using it for both sleeve. So that means I have 9 inches for each sleeve. So we take the main fabric, then we'll place the fringe on it. So take note of the middle. So you can fold the sleeve into 2 and then mark the midpoint. So make sure that the fringe is centralized. So you can also mark the middle of the fringe and then attach it to the middle of the sleeve. We are going to be using lining to turn this. So I'm just trying to make sure that it's at the middle. So use your pin to secure it. And then I'm going to place the lining over it and stitch. So I also mark the midpoint of the line. So it's going to be on it like this when we are done. So here's the sleeve. I've already pinned it. So I'm going to be stitching with 1/2 inch seam allowance. I'll sew along a 1/2 inch, then flip it. By the time you flip it in, the fringe will be out like this. So to also sew the upper part, I'll turn it again inside. That means you're putting all the fringes inside, and then I'll stitch with 1/2 inch seam allowance and turn it out from the opening. So I'm going to repeat same for the other sleeve, after which we join it to the main fabric. So this is what it looks like after stitching. This white part, I'm going to be cutting it out with the scissors later. So the next thing now is to attach the sleeve to the main fabric, to the front pattern and the back pattern. So I'll place them on each other, right side facing each other. And then I'm going to position the sleeve on the front pattern. So make sure to take note of your measurement. Remember, it's 4 inches off that we are working with. So use your chalk to mark it. and then also mark on the fabric where you are going to be attaching the sleeve to. So I'm just cross checking that it is 4 inches, and then I'll add seam allowance. I'm adding 1 inch seam allowance, after which I'll trim the excess. So once you've done that, then you can go ahead now to attach to the main fabric. So we attach one part to the main fabric, you remove the lining. But before we do that, I'm going to cross check the measurement of the front pattern and the back pattern. I'm just cross checking the measurement and then trim off any excess that we may have. And then I'll recut the armhole if necessary. So I'll repeat same for the back pattern. I'll check the armhole and then see if we have any excess and trim it off. So once we've done that, we can now go ahead and attach the sleeve. So I'll place the front pattern and the back pattern together, right side facing each other. And then I mark where the sleeve is going to be. So this is how it's going to look like when we attach it like this. Okay. So at this point you need your pins. So we're going to be matching where we marked together. So place the sleeve on the main fabric, making sure that the marks they match. Then use your pin to secure it, and then we put the lining over it because we are going to be using the lining to turn it. You put the lining over it like this, and then we are going to sew with 1/2 inch seam allowance. So you can use your pin to hold them in place before stitching. So once you have done that, this is what it will look like when you finish sewing. It's going to be like this. So the next thing is now is also to attach the other part of the sleeve to the back pattern. We'll also place it on the main fabric first. We'll place it on the main fabric, and then we're going to use the lining to turn it. Place it on the main fabric, right side facing each other. We are going to turn it with the lining like this. So use your pin to secure it. So when we are done, it's going to look like this. And then we go ahead and repeat same for the other sleeve. So it's going to look like this. So we're going to repeat same for the other side of the sleeve. We'll fix the other sleeve. So when you are done, you're going to have this. So this is what it looks like after sewing the armhole. So the next thing now, we're going to be closing up the side. So I just want to cross check that the sleeve length is 4 inches. So that is 4 inches. I'm also checking the other side, that is 4 inches as well. 4 inches. So the next thing, I'm going to close up the side, but before that we'll close the down part. So just flip it, turn it in opposite direction like this, putting all the other ones inside. And then we sew with 1/2 inch seam allowance, after which we'll notch it, and then we'll bring it out from the side. We'll repeat same for the back pattern. We'll place it against each other. And then we are going to be sewing with 1/2 inch seam allowance. After which we join this side. We join all the sides together, and then we remove the temporary stitch for the zipper line. Then we attach our zip. We trim off the excess, and we are done. So once we are through with everything, we are attaching our zip. We cut off the excess, and that is all. So here is the final look. How do I look? So this is the blouse. Thanks for watching. See you again in another video.